Hello, one and all, and welcome to another episode of Baggers Chat. My name is Mitch Patterson, and as always, we are joined by Ethan Duffy, and today we are previewing Carlton v Geelong, our Round 7 clash, Sunday, 27th of April, 3:20, at the home of football, the Melbourne Cricket Ground. Finally, we get to return to the MCG. First time we've been at the G since the Pies game, Duffy boy. But it's another chance to get our first win at the G, and it's it's our first chance to get our first official home game win. I know that we beat the Eagles, which was officially like kind of our home game. We're playing it in Adelaide, so we have another chance to beat to win at our home ground, but more importantly, to actually beat a side that is actually quite established like Geelong. So first things first, mate, how are you? And your initial thoughts towards this game? Big game this week. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm feeling, I'm confident because not just because it's Geelong, but just I've enjoyed the way we've gone about it, especially last week. I know it's a one-off kind of thing. Against the Eagles, we were better as well, but last week to me kind of, it was a full picture of where we can get to this season. So it's, Geelong they're disciplined. They are well coached. They've got so many, champions of the game on their team still. Whether they're, 35, 36 years old, doesn't matter. They're still great footballers. And it's something we can't take lightly. I'm confident in the game, but we will have to be at our very best to challenge them and defeat them this weekend. Look, we do match up well against them in the past. I feel like probably even when we weren't that great at points, we were okay against the Cats. We might have pinched a couple wins against them during our kind of childhood, Patto, when we weren't particularly at the top of our game. But it's a massive opportunity. If we win this, I don't know what else people are going to say about us. That'll change the whole narrative of our season, I think. People go, okay, they've got a big scalp in a big game at the G. Geelong are 4-2, so they're informed. They've won 3 on the trot. So if we can get this, Patto, I'll tell you what, the review's going to be up and about, I must say.
What do you think the conversation will be? Like, if we do get the job done this week, I know that there's a big injury with Geelong, and it kind of sets up their structure in Ryan Myers. They are probably arguably their most important player in terms of moving the ball forward, and he's kind of a part of a lot of forward plays. But what do you think the conversation will be? Like, do you think it will be more like we need to prove more, or coming from like your point of view as a Carlton supporter, if we get the job done this week, how do you think your feelings will be if we get the job done this week?
Yeah, it's I really don't know. Even when we won last year, there was points in the season where people didn't really believe that we were second or whatever. So to me, I don't think we need to prove anything. I don't think they should be proving themselves their worth, in my opinion. I think if you're worrying about, of course, you got to worry about the external view and all that kind of stuff here and there. But I think just do it for yourselves. You've put in the work. You're playing better footy. Put it together against a good team, and it'll be interesting to see what people say because they've ruled us out. They've completely ruled us out this year. A lot of people ruled us out from the finals, Patto, which I think is ridiculous. Like, this is, what is it, round 6? I know our first 4 games weren't great, and we both were, talking about that in the first week and not being happy about it. But we're talking about round 6. We were 3-9 in 2023. And that's a worse position because it's later in the year.
Yeah, of course.
You're playing rock bottom footy for 6 weeks straight. Like, that was, we lost 4 games, but, let's be real, we probably should have split those in half. Really, in terms of wins. So, I'd love to know what they say because I hope we get the win because it'll be the launch pad, I like to say.
And yeah, like 2023 was when we versed the Suns round 14 when we got that win. It was like finally the groundbreaking win, and like potentially this is what it could be from round 5 when we beat the Eagles and finally getting that confidence again. But I think I would rather have our confidence at the back end of the season. And it's good to find, I'm not going to complain about a win, but it's good to find some confidence now. But even if we do play a few off games in like round 13, round 16, round 19, that's fine because then you can actually sort out exactly what your correct structure is. And hopefully heading into September, if we are in the eight, that means we can actually sort out exactly what our structure is and exactly what we need to do to be a genuine threat in September, which I know, and I think all Carlton supporters and probably the football world know we can be with this list. So,
Yep.
David Boyd, we'll now move on to the injury list. And you obviously went to the training yesterday, so that was great that you
Yep.
went down. It wasn't an open train, but it was just a kind of a like a viewing session that was open to the public to go through and watch the players train. But there are some names here that we'll just go through quickly, and you'll obviously go through with a lot more in depth about these players. So I guess I'll throw it straight to you with the injury list.
Yep.
With these players on the injury list, but more importantly, some players that aren't necessarily on this list, but are quite notable players from last week that may have got a bit of a knock or an injury that might not be featured this week. Who are they, and how did they look yesterday?
Yeah, so off the top, I'll go with the man who's been playing the last few weeks in terms of Jacob Wiedering. He had that knee to knee. There was no damage to his knee, which was lucky because there's a video of him on the bench when he was talking to Sard. He said PCL to Sard, and Sard was like genuinely shocked. So he was fearing the worst. We're very lucky. I don't think people realise we are very lucky he has not done anything else. But at training is very light work. I was in my head on the way to training, I was hoping to see a little bit more in terms of just to give me a bit more confidence heading into Sunday's game. But yeah, he was on very light duties at the start of training. He was kind of doing just one-on-one work with, a coach, and then he was just running up and down the wing pretty much the whole training. So he was getting his fitness in, of course, but yeah, he was not a part of any of the drills. He was not a part of any of the contact drills, which is fine. And that's a normal thing when you're managing things. He wasn't the only one. Charlie wasn't doing stuff because they're continually managing his knee from the start of the year, as well as Cottrell as well with that ankle from a couple of weeks ago. But to me, we're lucky that it's not a Thursday, Friday game, I think. I don't know the way he was moving yesterday. I don't think he would have got up for today, but he is Jacob Wiedering. He is Superman, so he'll find a way to get on the ground. I did read a tweet yesterday that if he doesn't have to get his leg amputated, he will be on the ground. But yeah, we're lucky it's a Sunday game, and I'm fingers crossed he gets up. But for me, if he doesn't get up, it'll be an interesting watch. I think you probably make the switch for Lewis Young to go in defence and then bring Harry in the forward line. So, you look at that and you go, well, if we have to do it for a week and not risk Weeder's rest of the season, that'll be good. But what are your thoughts? Because, geez, he's pretty integral. But you look at the Cats, and I'm thinking about the matchup he would be on. He probably would be on
Neil.
So it's like, if he's going to miss a week, Patto, like, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I definitely see what you're saying and coming from, and I can see what you mean about like if there probably was any week to maybe miss a week and somewhat manage your body to make sure that you're right for the week after against Adelaide with a few more key forwards. That no disrespect to Shannon Neal, but probably might be a little bit more threatening.
Yeah.
And I know that Jeremy Cameron is obviously down there, but he's not the matchup for Jake Weir. No. I think that will probably be a Nick Haynes or even to a stretch, even McGovern or even Silvani just goes with him. But as soon as he goes up the ground, maybe I don't know, put even a Matt Carroll with him to kind of run with him if he does go up the ground. But yeah, so with the Wiedering, I guess, issue, is there an actual injury or is it just a knock?
Yeah, it's just that. So it was just a knee-to-knee knock. So usually with those ones, we've seen it with Jagger, who had a knee-to-knee knock and did his ACL. So that was where the worry was at. They thought it was PCL at first. So it's great news that he's okay. He just, you could tell that he was not 100% at the moment, and that's fine. It's been, when did we play? Friday. I guess it's been a few days. So that'll be an interesting watch. I think he will get up. I think he'll find a way to get up, but just quietly, I think. If Lewis Young is omitted, I would imagine he'd be the first emergency on Sunday, just because in case Weeders doesn't get up.
Yeah, it would be funny to see that because I think you probably would expect the change to be Harry Mackay for Lewis Young.
Yep.
That'd just be a straight swap. But
Yeah.
I think Lewis Young probably has to be that first emergency, even if even if Wiedering is
Mm.
100% fine,
Mm.
because I still think he's quite I still think he's in good enough form to
Yeah.
kind of warrant at least a first emergency. But then that gives the opportunity to a Sam Doherty to go back into the VFL and actually
Yep.
work on the craft. And
Mm.
I know even like a Cooper Lord might get dropped, who has been sub for the past few weeks, and it might
Yep.
be a bit unfair on him to then actually go unfair on him to then play him as a sub again. Maybe
Mm.
even Lewis Young could play as a sub.
Yeah.
And
Maybe.
then that means that you can even drop Lewis. I mean, not really drop Lewis Young, but Cooper Lord. But it's more like make sure that he's playing VFL and still learning his
Mm.
craft because he's still a young
Yep.
player. But is there any other names from the training session that caught your eye as well?
Yeah, there's a few doing light work. I said with Cottrell and stuff. That wasn't they were moving fine. That was clearly a management type thing. But another name, or Lockie Cowan, it was a test heading into this week. He's completely fine. So that'll be another interesting watch. We'll touch on that in the ins and outs to see if one of us will bring him in. I think I think we probably have both of the same opinion, and a lot of people have been saying it. Let's keep rolling with the group we've
Yes.
got. It's working. Those young guys have brought a little bit of something different. And if they're in the next few weeks, if their form doesn't warrant it, then you drop them. Then you drop them. And it doesn't have to be them, any player, if their form's not warranted. But yeah, Razio 2 to 3. He won't be back in 2 to 3. He was kicking. He was, I think he was on the. They were explaining to me what he was actually running on. It was the anti-gravity treadmills. So they've got these like special ones in the rooms. They're pretty cool, like kind of things. And he was running on those. So he's running fine, and he was taking set shots, and he looked all right. But when you get into contact work, that's when you got to really start looking really good. But who knows with him? He's just had a couple unlucky flare ups in his calf, so that'll be a one to watch again. And yeah, the rest of it's really kind of straightforward. Obviously, we got Kempy out for the season. Harry's all good. He's fine. He's completely fit. He'll play this week. That's a 100%. That's a guarantee from me right now. Nick Newman was running around at training doing laps. He looks incredible, Nick. I feel like when you're injured, you actually have to work harder at training because you're not doing the ball work. You have to run laps. So
Mm.
it's actually the terrible thing. You get injured, and then you've actually got to run more than the rest of your teammates because you've got to keep that kind of fitness up at a higher level. So yeah, it's going to be, I think, a not a nearby watch, but maybe when we get to August, September, if we're still playing in September, that'll be a very intriguing thing to see what happens there. But I think I don't know. I just don't know if he will. But and Jagger Smith, saw him out there. He was in good spirits, having a good laugh. So did look a little bit bigger actually. His shoulders little bit more broad. He's bigger than you think.
Oh yeah,
He's a skinny, like he's lean, but he's not like
lanky.
skinny. Yeah. So that's going to be a 2026 watch, Pato.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, it kind of does with Nick Newman. It kind of the conversation kind of goes to what happened with last year with Sam Doherty, and
Yeah.
if we do make the finals, or if maybe round 20, if we are a chance to make the eight, then like, what do you think you would do if? Well, I wouldn't really say round 20 because I think we both would play Newman, but
Yeah.
if it comes to round 23, or even we make week one of finals, I think Nick Newman the exact same as last year with Sam Doherty being
Mm.
available. Would you play Nick Newman in that final?
It's oh, it's tough. I wasn't a big fan post final after for the Doherty thing. We both were fans of it, but then we kind of were like
Yeah.
during the game, you could just tell he wasn't 100%. And since that really game, he hasn't really hit his straps either. But Newman, I'd want him to be almost fully fit for 3 to 4 weeks
Yeah.
prior. Like, so even if he hasn't played a game, I want him full training, full training, full training, not, full training and then you rock it up playing a do or die final. You
Mm.
want him to have some preparation because he's that type of guy you need.
Yeah.
So, and it also depends on the form of the other guys in defense. But yeah, that's going to be hopefully because he isn't on the injury list. He isn't on the long term injury list yet. So they haven't put him on there. So that's probably taken up one list spot. So clearly they think he's a chance. And I said to you prior to the episode starting, I think almost not putting him on the term injury list is probably giving him a little bit of motivation to really strive for something. this season when he's not playing. It'd give you a little bit of motivation because if you're just ruled out for the year like Jacob Smith is, and I'm sure he's still putting in the work, but it's a different putting in the work. You're more preparing for next season rather than preparing for this season. Like you still think you can have an impact on the season ahead, which is a pretty exciting prospect. I know you can look at it in a negative, thing with the injury. Go, fuck, I'm missing all these games and all these great wins. But you can be a part of it. Imagine going later in the year if we're playing well and you're watching them play and you go, I can be a part of it. So he'll be striving and striving, and he was changing direction yesterday at training, which is really positive.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's great. And what the difference is with Newman, so obviously he's done his patella, and like when you kind of look at the knee injury and to be continued, and I think earlier it said indefinite. So that's obviously a change with the injury list. Like it's now gone from indefinite to be continued. And I don't know if that's a big difference, but
Yep.
that's obviously a change from a few weeks ago. So and yeah, like usually a patella injury isn't season ending. So and he did it quite early.
Yeah,
So
January. Yep.
yeah. So I don't know if that if like what that means. And I mean, in terms of a patella injury, like I don't know if like a rupture. I mean, like he's obviously ruptured it, so
Yeah,
it
yeah,
obviously is quite serious. But an ACL injury usually is if you do it in Jan, you won't be back till Jan. But Sam
yeah.
Jockey, when did he do his? He did his in March.
March, yeah, he did it in opening round
Yeah, and he
against
came back.
Brizzy. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that's kind of down to like the amount of injuries he's had in the ACL. He's probably built a lot of strength with it, and
Mm,
obviously he was good to go. Well,
yeah.
we thought he was good to go. But yeah, I think it's as you said. I completely agree about what you said about Newman about it gives him motivation because
Mm,
it's not like we're ruling him out for the season. It's now like, no, if you can get your body right and you commit to it and you have some motivation, as you said,
yeah.
get yourself right. And if round 18, round 19, hopefully we might be top four, that would motivate him even more. So
Mm,
I think it's going to be great. And yeah, it's kind of just like a healthy motivation and it's a healthy mindset to have because even if you don't make it, oh,
yeah.
well, you're absolutely fit and ready for as soon as the season's done
Yeah.
full preseason,
Mm,
2026, you're ready to go. So
yeah.
I think it's a win-win either way. But Daphne, let's now move on to the ins and outs. So obviously last week the only rule change that we had to make the week before was Harry Mackay. And what was the other injury last week? I don't even know what it was. I think it was only Harry Mackay actually.
Yeah.
I don't even know. But yeah. So I mean, like we obviously didn't have any injuries from last week. Thank God, and hopefully
mm.
Jake Wiedering is good to go. But your ins and outs, including the sub, there's a certain player that might be returning to the side. But who have you got for the ins and outs and the sub?
Yeah, like I've kind of been repeating in this episode, I want to keep this same lineup somewhat. Somewhat. Of course, you got to make a change here and there. I think the change I'll be making is a pretty positive one, to be honest, against a team that's, pretty damn good. So I'll start off. My out will be Lewis Young, incredibly stiff. Incredibly stiff. Unbelievably stiff. Nothing, no issue with his performance on the weekend. He filled the void perfectly. I thought his first half, particularly, there was some moments where he was doing that tap on the wing that led to a goal. He's punching it forward. He's setting up. He's making tackles. He was using his body. So shout out to Lewis. No issue with his omission, but he will be omitted. And comes Harry Mackay, who missed last week. When you think about it now, it's probably not a bad game to miss.
Mm.
Better than this week. It's going to be an interesting prospect to see what he could do, especially in the middle of the ground. I thought he started that West Coast game really strongly when he was in the middle of the ground, when he rotated into the ruck and then obviously knocked himself out. But he looked strong. He was getting his hands on the ball. He just looked good. He looked like up and about for a guy who who's been through a bit of stuff and missed a few games. So we know he's the ultimate professional, and I think he's going to impact big in this game. I think he can stretch him out massively. His size, they've got no Jack Henry. I know they've got Stewart, who's a superstar, Is it Sullivan or O'Sullivan? Is it Sullivan or O'Sullivan?
O'Sullivan. O'Sullivan.
O'Sullivan. I always think it's such a Sullivan, but O'Sullivan, yeah, he's handy too. And I think they've got Jake Kolajasny coming back into the team this week. I read through a few Geelong forums, so you know, you're not a superstar in the game. Let's be real. We should be stretching their defense out.
He's pretty good.
He's good, but he's not a
nah,
superstar. We did wipe the floor with him last year, so with their full team in, and now they've got no Myers. So it's exciting with the sub. I don't know. I'm really confused because do I play Lord again as the sub? He did come on really well as a sub, and I don't know if I think he's so close to just be playing a full game. I think he's warranted to play a full game, but he can't get in. So I'm going to keep him as the sub. I think it's too good of a player to not be featuring in the side at all. I know, the twos thing where you can go back and dominate, but I think we need him to impact at the ones level. I think we actually need him as the sub. He's a good sub. He's got a bit of energy, and who knows? He could be in the side for someone else. Who might be the sub. It could be, whether it's a small forward who changes with him as the sub. I don't know, but it really depends on how the team looks at that. But I'll go with Cooper Lord again.
Yeah, I like it. It's good that we're only making one change or one or two changes. And also, the other change that was the other injury out of West Coast, what do you think it was?
Brody Kemp.
Yeah. I literally was like, as soon as I was like, yeah, I'm not too sure who it was. As soon as you were speaking, I was like, oh, fuck, it was Brody Kemp, mate. It was like a season-ending injury. So, I mean, it's good to have only the one change, and I'm doing the exact same thing. Well, kind of. I mean, it's one change, but I'm changing the sub. So, ins, I've obviously got Harry Mackay. Hopefully, he is good to go. Now out, I've got Cooper Lord.
Yep.
To play in the VFL.
Yep.
And there is no reason like if we could play two subs, I would do it, and it would be Cooper Lord and obviously my other sub, Lewis Young. So I'm keeping Lewis Young in the side as a sub.
Yep.
And it's more just because I really don't want to keep Cooper Lord as a sub for most of the season. And I know there's players that do that and actually like get themselves kind of develop themselves, but it's more like I'm just more in the mindset of he's young, he still hasn't had a lot of like match experience.
Yeah.
I feel like I want him to go back into the VFL and not even go back into the VFL, like dominate the VFL. And you're right back into this team. Because, like, as you said, he came on against North Melbourne. He was better than fucking any of the North Melbourne midfielders. And he played, buddy, half a quarter.
Yep.
And he got 6 touches, kicked 2 goals. So, I think small things like that, like he's an impact player. He doesn't need to have 25 disposals. He can have 15, and you can notice him more than a guy like Harry Sheasel who had 32.
Yeah,
like it's just small things like that I think, which is why I really want Cooper Lord to go back to the VFL and make sure he's still developing.
Yep.
I would rather have a guy like Lewis Young, or maybe in a few weeks' time, if Sam Doherty does go back to the VFL, come back in and plays a sub, because I would rather, if Cooper Lord is in, I would like him to play in the side. But it's only because he's young and he's kind of not developed his game yet. But I'm not too sure. But right now it's Harry Mackay in, Cooper Lord out, and Lewis Young as the sub Daffy boy. But guess now we'll move on to the opposition watch. As we've mentioned a few times already in this episode, Brian Myers will be missing this week with a concussion. And Connor Nash actually got 4 weeks for that hit, which is probably deserved. It was pretty bad.
It's pretty bad.
I was working on that game, and I'm like, I literally like stopped, and I'm like, bloody hell, that was like, I mean, some would say he was going for the ball, but it's like, it doesn't really matter. You shouldn't be swinging the arm around like that. But the opposition watch, for the people who don't know what this is, we go through backline, midfield, and forward line for the Geelong Cats, our opposition this week, and just touch on each player, one player for each line, and kind of explain why it's a bit of a threat to come this Sunday, 3:20 at the home of football, Duffy Boy. But your backline opposition watch for the Cats this week, there are a few names there already, but obviously we expect Kolajasny to come back this week. What do you think with the backline opposition watch?
Yeah, I'm looking at their team. We're going to have to be on our game. We're going to have to be at our tip-top game. I think we can beat them. I'm not saying we can't, but they are disciplined. They don't make mistakes, and it starts with their defence. They do not make errors. And not saying they don't, but they just don't make silly errors. They don't give you goals out of nothing, Geelong, do they? They They just don't. They just do not give those shit goals away. Hawthorn gave those shit goals away on the weekend. Who won the game? They just won, but you give away 2 goals out of nothing. They don't do that. Geelong don't do that. I hope they do this weekend, but I think it's more about how we play rather than how they play. But for me, with Brian Myers out of the team, so that to me, like you said, he is crucial to that team. He cuts us up when he plays against us. He's just one of those guys. I think he is probably the hardest guy to play on, Myers. So for me, the guy that I will be focusing on this week with the ball use is Lawson Humphreys. With a guy like Myers out of the team, they might try and not push up Humphreys, but if they're playing a high line when it's in our defence, no, the other way around. But when he's playing higher up the ground, they might opt to go to him a little bit more without Myers. They might go, okay, well Myers is out. Let's go. Let's give Humphreys, 5 to 10 more looks at it forward of the ball. So I think we need to keep an eye on him. He looks like a 30. He's a 20-year-old going 30. I don't even think he's 20 yet. He might not be.
I reckon he's 19,
he was
20.
he was playing Waffle reserves 2 years ago, and which is unbelievable. Like Waffle reserves, and now he's playing for one of the best teams in the AFL every week and being one of their, better performers every week. So we've got to keep an eye on him. I don't think it has to be a direct matchup, but it's more just keeping an eye on when they win the footy in our forward half. Where is he? Like where we got to find him. There's no Myers. Which helps. So now it's like putting more eggs in that basket. And there's other guys in there that can do stuff like that. You got Bailey Smiths and Holmes and guys like that, but they don't have the ball use of Myers. Myers can create something out of nothing. So, and as well as Humphreys. So once it's more about where is he? So if it's your direct opponent, if it's Fogarty, if it's Durden, if you go first thing when you turn it over, that should be your first thought. Where is he? It doesn't matter if he's 100 meters away. Call someone to go over to him. If it's a 1v2, go to him. And of course, if it's forward of the ball, you're going to be going on the key forwards. But yeah, for me, he's just damaging. He's too damaging to let you just don't give him 30 touches.
I love the pick. I reckon he's an absolute star, and he's actually 22. So he obviously spent a few years in the Waffle, and it just shows that. I mean, players like that. I mean, like we see it with Riley Bice as well, who's obviously playing at the Swans, and he's pretty much the exact same type of player. He's playing the exact same role, and getting like when you have the chance to give him the ball, you give him the ball because he definitely makes the right decision. But yeah, I love Lawson Humphrey as a choice for the opposition watch. But I guess the question is with him: do you see him going a little bit more up the ground in like a forward mid position? Because I know that he's playing half back, but you want him to kind of play that Grime Myers role. Like, do you mean that in terms of like still playing as a defender, but just like receiving the ball like a Wanganeen Miller, who kind of receives the ball a little bit higher up the ground and actually lacing out targets inside 450? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I think he's suited to playing in defence where he's most of the games in front of you.
Yeah.
So I feel like that was a mistake St Kilda made against the Dogs. They started playing Wanganeen Malira in the middle. He's not a midfielder. Sorry. Like, he's a good player, great player in his position. So I don't think you force a guy like Lawson Humphrey. Let's be real. They won't play him in the middle, but if they did, like St Kilda did, he would be getting absolutely smashed. So it's interesting to see what they do. I think he might be more a part of the chains higher up the ground.
Yeah.
He'll still be playing in defence, but he might be that, he'll still be getting the ball in defence, of course, but he might be that next kick on the wing, whether a De Koning takes a mark or an O'Sullivan takes a mark, he's the next kick closer to their goal. Just because Myers is out, but I could be completely wrong. So it's just got to keep an eye on him.
I like it. Like it a lot. With my opposition watch, I'll probably go with Tom Stewart. I know that he's been a bit out of form the past few weeks, especially to start the year. And I know that he's had a few injuries, a few issues with his body to start 2025, but I just think he's too good of a player to not put some work into him. And do you think there could be a player, because I know that like a Chincotta tagged Stewart obviously last year. So do you think there could be some work into Tom Stewart this week?
Yeah, you're spot on there, Patto, with the Chincotta. That was fantastic to see because Chincotta kicked 2 goals on him, or 3 goals in the end. So, yeah, Matt, I think once again, I think you just got to keep an eye on him. You're not going to play a lockdown role, but, we've got a few guys in there who can do that kind of job. whether it's Fogarty, just being a guy who can doesn't have to be dominant on him. Just
Accountable.
don't let him take those marks that he takes. Stewart's a fan. He's my favourite Geelong player.
Yeah.
He's just a superstar. I just love the way he goes about it. He's a hard nut. When there's a one-on-one contest, who's winning the contest, Batto? It's Tom Stewart. He's just when the ball's there to be won, he is there. So shout out to him. But with Fogarty or whoever, you can always, shift blokes up forward just to play 5-10 minutes. It might be a midfielder, it could be I don't know. It's interesting because you just got to be able to split his time taking marks. Cause more 50-50s. Look on the weekend, Patto, against North Melbourne. When the ball hit the deck, we looked dangerous. And I said in the reviews, it was the first time in a while where I went, every time the ball hit the deck, I thought we were going to kick a goal or have a shot on goal. So if we do that against the Cats and find ways to get easy goals when the ball hits the deck and eliminate his marks, De Koning's marks, O'Sullivan's marks, it'll go a long, long, long way to us scoring a score that should be able to beat them.
Mm. I know I'm probably looking a little bit ahead of the run sheet right now, but I just thought I would mention right now because we're kind of on the subject of Grind Myers. Do you think a Sean Manor could be that player as well, like having a little bit more of the footy in? I mean, I know that he absolutely killed Hawthorn last weekend. He got the 10 coaches' votes last week, so I think he was I felt like fantastic last week, probably his career best game since joining the AFL. But do you think he could be that Brian Myers player receiving a little bit more of the footy up the ground? Because I think he's very much like I think he has the capability to go up the ground and play as that high midfielder in the Brian Myers role. Or do you think, I just think, like, you can't find that Grind Myers player for kind of anyone other than it's Grind Myers. So do you think they kind of just find someone to kind of chip into that Grind Myers role, but not a player who actually covers that Grind Myers role?
Yeah, I think he's uncoverable. I think
Yeah.
he's the most unique player in the AFL.
Yes.
Just obviously the way he kicks the footy, but the way like his way of kicking and the way he hits his targets, like you just don't see it. Like sometimes you watch him and you go, like, how did he hit that target?
I know.
Like the technique is just you just don't show that to a kid. That technique, let's be real, but it works. Works for him. So he's a huge out. Yeah, Manek could definitely play a little bit more minutes through the mid and higher up the ground. One for me, I think that could not take on that role, but play. He does play high and also deep inside forward 50, and it's Ollie Dempsey. Gee, he's good. Gee, he's good. And there was a few instances where he was on the wing. He creates that separation. And the next minute you see him up forward and then he's winning the ball out of the guts. It's like, what the hell? Like, they just grow these guys on trees down in Geelong, Patto. But they're the perfect. I said about Myers yesterday that he is the perfect prototype 2025 footballer. And Dempsey is very close.
Yeah.
Very close. He kicks goals. He hits targets, takes big marks. He can run all day. So he could be one for them, but hopefully he has a quiet one.
Yeah, there's a lot of players within Geelong that have those
Yeah.
guys, don't they? Like, they just have like so many players that just that generational talent. And I mean, like, buddy Ollie Dempsey's in his second year and he looks like he's played like exactly the same as also
I
Humphries.
know.
It's actually crazy. And then Brad Close is the exact same. Like, I think I don't think he was drafted in the national draft. I think he was he was mid-season as well. Sean Manor the exact same. I think Shannon Neal may have been drafted in the national draft, but he obviously was developed behind buddy Tom Hawkins and Jeremy Cameron. It's just the way that it's I know it's crap. I mean, it's not crap. It's a great opportunity to come up against a great side, but I love watching the Cats play and how they go about it.
Yeah,
And it's one of the teams that, like, a lot of my good mates have, like, I mean, they obviously support the Cats and like, I try and keep up with obviously them a lot and try and keep an eye on them. And I just think the way that they play the game and like Zach Guthrie as well, the way that he's evolved, he's just there's so many players that just find a way. And like Mark Blixarves, who's a buddy sizable ruckman,
plays every position on the ground.
Plays every position. Like, it's actually unbelievable.
They've got a few guys who can. They've got a few guys who can do that. Yeah, over the years, I think everyone's so salty about Geelong and their success, and I know that comes with success. Of course,
it's just jealous, I reckon.
But as I've gotten older and as the years have gone on, I've got to the point where it's like, okay, I've just fully respect what they do because it is so hard to remain consistent for 6 weeks, let alone a decade, Patto. Like we're talking like well, Carlton have not been like we were consistent probably from 8 rounds last year in the middle part, which we were loving. That's great. But they do it every week. Like they get to lose a game, but they always bounce back. They always bounce back. They just don't. They don't accept. They just don't accept lower than what they know they can achieve. And the fans are the same. Their
Yeah.
supporters, they lose a game, they're disappointed, but they're not going overboard, going, oh, we just might have been beaten by a better side. And you look at last year, they got pumped by us. And since that point, they beat Essendon the next week and they made a prelim. They almost won the premiership.
Yeah.
See, I think with our supporter base, including myself, the first 4 weeks we are just bagging. I don't think we were bagging, but there's some support. We're bagging the shit out of these players. Geelong were 1 and 2, lost to St Kilda, and they weren't going, oh no, sack Scott, drop him, drop him. They just keep a level head. This off field, on field, there. When they win, they're not too high. They're happy, but they're not, celebrating like it's a final. They're just like, yep, next week. Because Manners' interview was massive for me. I listened to it and he goes, we've got a big game next week against Carlton. That was his first thing he thought about. He didn't care about his great performance, which I'm sure they were rapt about inside the four walls and they're happy with the win. They're straight on to next week, Patto. And they've got Collingwood the week up. They've got a massive 2 weeks coming up. And they're not worried about their win. That's done. You enjoy that for your, the afternoon or the night. And they'd be straight on because, there was a quick turnaround. And that's going to play a massive part in this game, I think, as well. To see if we can start strong. Let's see if they can stay with us for the whole game, considering they had a shorter turnaround.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. The way that you said about Manor as well, like literally, I listened to I know the exact interview you're talking about, and as soon as he mentioned, I'm like, this guy just knows.
I was like, oh fuck.
He's like, he already knows that he's already watching the Baggers next week. Yeah. Oh, it's just it's just small things like that. And I'm sure there would be some media relations to that, making sure that try to be humble and try to move on to next week, whatever. But I just think it's just the way that everyone kind of goes about it. Like even like Bailey Smith, and I think Geelong kind of have warranted a little bit about the publicity going to Geelong now with Bailey Smith entering and even him putting up the finger. Like he doesn't give a fuck. Yeah, Geelong don't give a fuck. And like there's people that don't like it, but I'm just like, mate, just be yourself. But if you do it against a Carlton supporter, different story, mate.
But even like it's just they've he's a different cat. Let's be real,
a different cat.
But they've a different cat, yes. But he's come into the side and they've made him they've got behind him, so it's really good. I don't know, we get behind our guys as well, whether they're the 18th guy picked on the day or the best player on the team. So. I'm looking at their team. I'm just looking at their lines. There's some good players, but it's not unbeatable, Patto. It is not unbeatable. Absolutely not unbeatable, this game. And I'm not saying it's like, we'll win, definitely. Have to be at our best, but I know we can get there.
Yeah. And that's also the thing as well. Like looking at this team, it's like, I don't think there's any like absolute A grade plus superstars on this team, but it's like, what the problem is like, all 40 players on their squad is like this. So that's kind of like the worry of like Ted Closey comes in as a sub. I mean, I know that he didn't really make an impact much, but like even I think he played against the Saints.
Yes, he was good.
He just makes an impact, and it's just like fuck. He's actually a handy player, and he probably hasn't been exposed to any senior football before. But like, it's just like they have a guy like Jack Martin who we obviously know about, and we know that how talented he is, and let's hope that Geelong don't get him right. But if they do get him right, they've got a guy like that who probably won't be near this forward line, but we know what he can bring. It's just the way that they go about it. I'll literally top my head. I just respect them so much. Yep. I think the way that they go about it is just fantastic, and it's something that we definitely have to look at. And if we get the win against the Cats this week, I think it's going to be huge for our season. But Daf, let's now move on to our midfield opposition watch. There are a few names there. There's a guy, Patrick Dangerfield, who's been playing probably 75% forward, but when he goes into the middle, he also dominates as well. But your midfield opposition watch, what have you got?
Yeah, it's an interesting midfield. For me, like they're a really good midfield, but I think for me, the way Hewitt stepped up, Chera stepped up this season, I think we can beat this midfield, and we did last year. I know that's a long time ago, but
Killed him.
Hewitt's playing at a high level. I actually think when we go to the Brownlow votes in the first 6 weeks, I would not be surprised if he's in the top 6, 7. I would not be surprised. He's been really, really good in our close losses. I
Consistent.
would
Yeah.
not be surprised if he polls well. Like I saw someone say he could be in top 5, and he wasn't a Carlton supporter. And I don't know, it might have been Michael Barlow or someone said that he reckons he will be top 5 right now in the Brownlow, which is unbelievable. Unbelievable. And he's the most impactful ball winning mid in the competition by statistics. So he wins the footy. I think he's the third most, or he's averaging more than Dacos at this point, which is freakish. But his impact is enormous. But in terms of their mids, they got some good ones. Bailey Smith for me, Pato. Bailey Smith for me. I think he's got that pace, but I think we can go with him. I think we can go with him. And I want to see how he can go with our tough guys through the middle, our big bodies through the middle.
I like it. I like it a lot. I'm just having a look at the disposals, and so on on average, right? So
Yeah.
on average, right now, George Hood is 30 behind Nick Dacos, Noah Anderson, Zach Merritt, Lockie Whitfield, and Tom Green, who's in front, and it just shows there like he's well and truly up there with the best midfielders in the competition. And it's just great to see. Like
Yeah.
I know that we touched on it a lot in the review episode about it's kind of credit to him because he hasn't been, I guess, exposed or kind of treated as the midfielder
Mm.
he is. I know at Sydney he was fucked around a lot as
Mm.
a tagger and in the back line and never really tried him in the midfield. And we obviously saw what he had to offer in the midfield. There was an
Yep.
opportunity and there was an opening in that midfield. And we offered him the spot, and he took the opportunity, he took the risk.
Yep.
He brought his kids over and his wife over. Probably bought a house in the farm, mate, and probably firing up some marshmallows, whatever, some hot cocoa with, I don't know, as you like to say, meat and potatoes, mate.
Yep.
But it's just fantastic to see. And I'm probably like, he's probably the guy that I'm just so pleased about. The
Yep.
most pleased about I've been as a Carlton supporter, just because we know how he plays his football. He doesn't really beat around the bush. He's
No.
very direct, and he just like when something pisses him off, he's open about it. But when he kicks a good goal, he also celebrates as well. So
Yeah.
it's good to see, and very happy for George Hewitt. But do you think George Hewitt could have a matchup this week? Because I know that the past few weeks, and that's something that we've really seen as well, which has been really good, is I guess the matchups last week. He was kind of matched up against Luke Davies-Uniacke, and he absolutely blew him out of the water. But do you think there could be a matchup this week? Not a tag, but the way that George Hewitt has kind of gone about it this year is he's had a matchup and he stays on that player, but is also worrying about himself as well, trying to impact the footy. But do you reckon there could be a play that he could go to this week?
Yeah. So I was looking at their kind of midfield and the matchups for Hewitt. The two dangerous ones for me, it may be Holmes and Smith, but it's just more can he go with them because their running capacity is enormous. Not saying George isn't, but they're quick and their running capacity is massive. So, yeah, I'm looking at their midfield, Pato.
I know.
We should be winning this.
Yep.
I know Danger's a star, but he's playing forward more. He might have to play more midfield minutes this week, I'd imagine. I don't think he's going to be playing an 80, 75% game like when you got Cripps, Hewitt, Chera, Walsh.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I'm not sure you can afford to have him out of there for as long as he did the other day, which, Hawthorn had Will Day out. That's the issue with Hawthorn's midfield at the moment. They've lost they've lost that class a little bit. Newcombs and that find the footy. They find a lot of the footy. Connor Nash obviously suspended, but they're not particularly clinical ahead of the ball like a Will Day. But yeah, maybe. I'm sure they will find a way. Tom Atkins will probably go to someone as well. He could go to Hewitt.
Yep.
He could go to Hewitt or Cripps. Because the positive with George's form at the moment is that he might take a defender off Cripps. Like Hewitt's form is enormous. He's been our best player. So, yeah, it'd be an interesting watch. But, yeah, in terms of midfield watch, yeah, like Bailey Smith will be mine.
Do you think that, like, I know that there is a lot of like I know that this year especially George Hewitt has had a matchup, but like I don't think he necessarily needs to have it
No.
this week. He kind of be that can be that free midfielder, and then of course if someone goes to him, then
Mm,
that's your matchup. But I think the past few weeks, like you just don't really need to have a matchup. It's kind of
mm,
like worry about yourself because I mean, as you said, I completely agree. Like, but if Dangerfield's in there in the midfield, then that's probably something that you have to look at.
yep.
That's probably the only person for me that
Yeah.
I'm kind of
Yep.
looking at as a matchup for Hewitt. If
Mm,
Patrick Dangerfield's playing more midfield time, I feel like that's when you probably say, yeah, Hewitt, you are matched up on Dangerfield, but it's not a tag; it's a
yeah.
matchup. It's
Yeah.
completely different, and the way that he's gone about it this year has just been great. But my midfield opposition watch, I'm going to go with Max Holmes.
Mm,
He's really evolved as a midfielder this year, transitioning from halfback last year to this year as a midfielder. But I mean, potentially you could put George Hewitt to Max Holmes, but I just think he's too quick. I
mm,
think he's explosive. I guess like the way that he plays his game is very explosive. And that's something that might be a little bit of a worry if George Hewitt is tagged on him, but kind of just keep an eye on him.
yeah. Yeah.
I don't think you need to tag him necessarily or necessarily need to match up on him, but I think he needs to be kind of held accountable because he could be a threatening player come this Sunday. But Duff, let's now go to our forward line opposition watch for the Caddy Cats this week. Again, I already said Caddy Cats against the Cats. What the fuck am I saying?
Yeah.
But your forward line opposition watch, there are a few names down there, obviously. What do you think?
Yeah. Um, Shannon Neal is the least of my worries. Solid player. He's still young, but not sold on him. And, you kick four after I said that. I said that about Zerha last week. So I'm going to go with my track record, which is 1-0 since the Zerha comments. I know I've got a Geelong mate who watches our episodes and he'll be clipping that up right now, I'd imagine. And then he'll send it through when Neil kicks his fifth in the sealer. But no, for me, God, he finds a way to kick goals every time against us. Even when we win, and we won comfortably last year. He was quiet in that game, but the one before that when we beat him, not the win before that at the start of the season, I think it was Ollie Hollands and Lockie Cowan's first win in
Yeah,
23,
2023.
Jeremy Cameron. And I think we have the cattle in defence to match up on him high up the ground. I think whether, like you said, with Haynes and McGovern, I thought it was spot on that they can follow him up the ground. You know what I mean? Like if he wants to take him out, they'll go with him. McGovern will go with him. Haynes will go with him. Whether
Mm.
whether he likes it or not, they've got the capacity. They've got the kind of same frame and the same build to go with a guy like Jeremy Cameron. And if he's deep in defence, maybe Sauce goes on him. But the matchups are going to be interesting. But for me, yeah, Jeremy Cameron's a dangerous player. He almost kicked goal of the year last week, the bicycle kick out of midair. But I don't know. I was watching. It was right below where I was sitting, and I was going like, "What the fuck?" Like, imagine just in your brain trying that in an AFL game. But yeah, he's a freak. So if we could just hopefully keep him to 3, 4, even at 3 or 4, that'd be nice. That'll go a long way. But he can kick a bag on any day, anytime, anywhere.
Yeah, I think he's by far that threat in that forward line, especially without Grime Myers. If Grime Myers was playing, I probably would go Grime Myers, but I think it's quite obvious that, yeah,
Yeah.
I had to say Jeremy Cameron. I probably will say someone else after I ask you this question. But I guess with Cameron, do you think, like, so if you say put McGovern on Jeremy Cameron as a matchup, do you think when Cameron stays deep, do you think it could be McGovern? Or do you think, as you said, Silvani could potentially pick him up? There's just no one else really down there as a forward
Yeah.
threat. So do you think there could be a world where one of these key backs might get managed because it's not really a tall forward line?
Mm,
There's also Ollie Henry down there, and he'll
yeah.
be playing deep. So do you think it could just be Winnering to Neil, Silvani to Henry, McGovern or Haynes to Cameron?
Yeah.
But as soon as Cameron comes back deep, do you think there could be a change there?
Um, and we've also got Paddy Dangerfield.
Yep. Probably won't be
Who's
dropping any tools then.
who's, no, I understand the point. Yeah, but yeah, it's because when
Yeah,
Danger's down there, it's probably him and Jez are the two dangerous ones.
definitely.
Like in terms of like marking ability, lead up, take grabs. So it's the matchups. Like, Wiedering to Neil, I guess. Just size wise, I'd love to see Wiedering be able to just fly across though with these matchups with Jeremy Cameron and stuff, especially when you're on Shannon Neal. I'm not underrating Shannon Neal, but he's not Jeremy Cameron.
No.
He's not Paddy Dangerfield. So can he be that interceptor, causing 2v1s and causing, coming off Shannon Neal and but yeah, and they put Reece Stanley sometimes deep in the goal square. They did it a couple of times on the weekend to try and stretch out Hawthorn's defence, which it did work
Yeah.
at some stages in the match. So they'll be throwing stuff around and. Chris Scotty, he might go off Sam de Koning for the last quarter. He might, sit in the goal square and force, Keynes to take her or Silvani to take her so we can free up Danger and Cameron. So it's an ever evolving matchup in the forward line in any player. It's just a revolving door. Geelong don't keep the same things every week. They keep evolving it, and they'll know what defenders we're rolling with, so they'll try and cause us to have a bit of worries in defence.
But you would say Cameron matchup, Bobby McGovern?
Yeah, or I actually think Haynes is the better defender. So I think Haynes is the better defence first defender. So maybe you go Gov to Henry, or
what does that leave Silvani? Where's that leave Silvani?
Yeah, I know. Well, Silvani might go to Danger.
Yeah, good point actually. Yeah,
I think Silvani's. You know what I mean? So, and we know Danger will roll through the middle. So it's going to be an ever evolving thing throughout the whole game. But yeah, I wouldn't mind Haynes going to Jezza. Yeah. Haynes going to Jezza. I just think the way he's been playing, Haynes, I'm really enjoying it. It's kind of bringing out his best footy the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and there were people saying round 1, round 2 that this guy's washed and why do we pick him up? Well, that's fucking why we picked him up. So to the people that go too early, I just don't like it how people go early and then they turn back their word. Like they're so adamant to get like, oh no, this guy's shit. And then they turn back their word like instantly.
That's what I mean with Geelong fans. They don't do that.
Yeah, they don't care because
they lost by 10 goals last year. I know they would have been pissed off. I know, right? But they don't go, is Scott the coach? What about the board? What about the board? We spoke about the board and up to down, and they've got to improve that. But what are they supposed to do with the on-field performance, Patto? Did they affect the North Melbourne win? Did the board go? Were the board the contributing factor to winning by 82 points? No. It's the guys out there. It's always been that. It's been that for years. And of course the coach has to be under pressure at some points, but come on, man.
Yeah, I know.
Those 22 guys need to do it. And they need to do it this week as well. I don't want to see if we lose this week going, Vossi. If these guys aren't up to it, they will not win this game.
It's just this week is huge in terms of like we've had it actually is massive.
Yeah.
Because we've had the past 2 weeks of like, we only beat North Melbourne, we only beat West Coast, but like we can come out this week and actually beat the Cats. It would be fantastic and that would shut up all the doubters. But it's also like if like a McGovern who has been poor to start the season and he's had a good game last week and the week before, but if he can come out again and perform well, great. But if he doesn't and he shits the bed like he did in rounds 1 to 4, that will be the worry. That will be the serious worry because I just think the mindset will change because I'm like, what? It's like they're so nervous to play against these good sides. Why?
Yeah.
You are a good side as well. So go on.
Take the risks. Play the same way that we play on the weekend.
Yeah.
Brutal. You can beat that should be the minimum, the contest. And then the ball movement. Like you said, why are we don't be afraid to take it on against Geelong.
Yeah.
That's what they do. They do it against everyone, all 18 teams. Doesn't matter if they're playing the most informed team in the comp. You got to try it.
Exactly.
To win premierships, Patto, it's not going, let's just sit back, go long down the line. If we play like last week, I think we're a massive chance. But like you said, it's about playing like last week against a better team. And that involves McGovern, and that involves our mids.
Yep.
Winning the midfield battle. That involves our smalls, who we've been critical about, who are great the last 2 weeks.
See?
We've given them the credit. But if they can put on a show, these small forward group, this week, if I get 2 goals out of Durden, 3 goals out of Motlop, couple of goals out of Watt, Williams kicks another bag,
Be huge.
then you go, okay, now is this the lineup we roll with? And it's going to change over the year.
Mm.
Can you do it against a good team like Geelong? It's the biggest question mark of the season. And mentally, like you said, this will change the season.
Yeah.
100%. They'll go into Adelaide with the supreme confidence. And you know what happens when Carlton have supreme confidence? But they run on air.
Yeah.
They're floating on air, as Hutto would say.
Do you think it could? I mean, obviously, you can change our season for the better, but what would the conversation? I mean, I know I asked it at the start of the episode, but if we don't get the win this week, what do you think the conversation will be like? Do you think, like, if we lose by 4 points, like, what do you think the conversation will honestly be?
I think if we play extremely well and lose, like 4 points, like you said, I think you still take the positives. I'm not saying there's acceptable losses. I'm not accepting a loss. But if we're at our top of our game and we lose to a Jeremy Cameron last minute goal, as long as I see that game plan and that sort of game style on show for majority of the game, Patto, they're willing to take on kicks. If McGovern fucks up a kick, I don't care.
Yeah, yep.
I don't care. That's what irritates me with our mindset at Carlton. When I hear groans and moans in the crowd when we're trying to take on these kicks and we mess it up, and then we don't hear the claps when they take on the kick. You know what I mean? You got to work both ways in football.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to make mistakes. I'd rather make more mistakes winning games, like trying to take on the middle of the ground and take those short kicks like Cottrell was doing on the weekend. I don't know. It'll be a nervous game next week if we lose to Geelong, though.
Yes.
It's a worrying prospect. But if we win, the Adelaide game will be another opportunity. But week by week, Patto, we've got to focus on this Geelong game, which I think we're at very strong chance of winning. I just got a really good feeling about this week.
Yeah. And yeah, like as we mentioned a few times already, like they lost to St Kilda and St Kilda got absolutely kicked in the ass last week against
Yes.
So it's just like it just shows that the season is so tight. Like obviously North Melbourne and probably like a West Coast are probably the two worst teams. We probably would have expected Richmond to be there, but they are actually looking quite solid. I think they won't be
no.
Good. A bit off subject, like a bit off topic, but I saw. I think TAB posted on their Facebook saying a guy put $40 on at $1,001 for Richmond to win the flag.
Oh, Jesus.
And I'm like, well, that's a waste of $40.
That's just charity. Jesus Christ, donation. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, the Gold Coast losing to Richmond's just made me feel a little bit better about. I know it was an unacceptable loss once again, but that pressure they brought the other night was exactly the same as the pressure they brought on us.
Yes.
And when you crumble, those teams do it. And, people were going, oh, blah, blah. It was a terrible loss. We should not have lost. We were 41 up. That was the worst part. That was the worst part of the loss. But they brought it that night, and they did not bring it the 2 weeks after. It's the matter of week by week. They're going to be up, but their fluctuations are going to be up and down like we were when we were shit. Sometimes you'd have a week where you beat the top side, and the next week you lose the bottom 14. So it's, like you said, it's so tight. It's so tight. And, when teams are off, they can be really off. But when they're on, like Carlton can, we've seen the stark difference in the first 6 weeks. It's been the most Carlton 6 weeks you've ever seen.
Yeah, you're spot on. Just to touch on my opposition watch for the forward line, just quickly. I'll probably go with Tyson Stengel.
Yeah.
I think he's a threat down there, and we obviously know how we go against our small against the opposition small forwards. They sometimes most of the time they find a way to make an impact in the game. But who do you think would go to Tyson Stengel? Because I think it could be Nick Haynes. I think Nick Haynes could go to Stengel and probably have that as a matchup. And then that means that I don't know where that leaves Cameron, because I know that you said you probably would want Haynes on Cameron, but I don't know where that leaves. But is there anyone else that you see that could go to Stengel?
I'm not sure.
There isn't, is there? There isn't.
Could be Sard, maybe.
Sard.
Yeah, because he tends to play high sometimes, but you could help Sard to have try and turn over the footy higher up the ground and get the ball more inside 50 for us. So,
Mm,
yeah, he's still getting his hands on the ball, Stengel. His goal impact hasn't been as high this year, I
wow.
feel. Not saying he's playing badly, but yeah, he's probably due for a couple of goals. So, Carlton often give it a couple of cheapies to small forwards, but defensively we've been great. So
Yeah.
that's a credit to our defense. But yeah, it's so many. They've got so many guys that play taller than they are, and some
Yeah.
guys who play smaller than they are, and it's it'll be a headache matchup wise. But I'm sure they've got their head around it by now. The coaching group, and they know I hope they know better than us, but us two dickheads on a podcast. I hope they know who the matchups are.
Yeah, I mean, even like an Ollie Horns could
Yeah,
go
yeah, yep,
as a matchup, but I don't know if he's playing high. I don't know if he's playing
yeah. I
deep
don't know.
because
I don't know.
I know that I've
And
liked him.
Stengel goes through the middle as well. At some
Yeah,
points, it's like
exactly.
it's a. I think it's once again this game's going to be ever evolving. They're going to have different matchups for Harry and Charlie throughout the game, for
Mm.
sure. They're going to. I think if Colin Jasny is back, he'll probably go to. I think he's gone to Charlie or Harry in the. I don't know, but De Koning's in defence. Well, they might shift him in the ruck for this week like they did against us last year. You just don't know. You just don't know. And that's why they're a good side because they find ways to, adapt. If one guy's not great on a matchup, they go, okay, Tom Stewart, you're going lockdown instead of intercept. So, MCG, Patto, Sunday Arvo.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it. But I probably would assume Ollie Hollands to potentially go to Stengel, and even if he does go higher up the ground,
Yep. Yep.
because I mean he's good against players like this because he absolutely
Mm.
locked down Dylan Moore to 9 touches and zero
Yeah.
goals. Maybe kicked one or maybe one scoring shot, but I know that he didn't
Mm.
have much of an impact at all. So I think Stengel kind of plays the exact same role
Mhm.
as Moore. So I think Ollie Hollands could actually be that player, but I don't know if he could play a little bit higher up the ground because I do like him up the ground a little bit, but I think just we're kind of lacking in that back line, and we know that
Yeah.
what Ollie Horns can do as that small defender, especially without Cowan there, and I don't think Cowan
Mm.
should be near this side this week. So I think Ollie Horns definitely could be the contender to go to Stengel or maybe might even play it to a close. I'm not too sure, but it would definitely will be interesting to see on Sunday 3:20 Daffy Boy. But let's now move on to the match predictions, our last segment of the preview episode. For the people who don't know what we do for the predictions, we go through bag of the game, which is obviously the best on ground player, which is our kind of way of saying the bagger of the game. Point of difference, don't need to explain that. And winner plus margin this Sunday at the G Duffy Boy. So it's a big one because we're coming off a few
Oh.
wins. We said it after the Pies game. I'm like, if we can get some momentum heading into the Cats,
Yep.
which we have now, we have some momentum. We're
I know. It's
confident.
good.
We know what we can bring, and we are finally excited again to come up against a good side at the G. But it's down to Sunday because if we play like shit again, we'll be down in the dumps again on the review episode. But your match predictions for this Sunday, what have you got? It's interesting.
Yeah. So I'll go with best on ground first. I think this guy will start to get into if not, if he's not already, into the All Australian calculations and Brownlow vote calculations at the moment. I think George Hewitt will be best on again. I'm hoping also, I know we're not supposed to do two, but if all the focus is on George Hewitt leading up to this week, I'm hoping Paddy Cripps has a game. I feel like he's been managed the last 2 to 3 weeks since that back injury against the Dogs. I don't think he's been at his blistering best. Not saying he hasn't been good, but he hasn't been at that tip top Brownlow best since that kind of injury to his back. They managed him against Collingwood. He didn't look great against Collingwood. Like he just, in terms of his body, he looked better in that West Coast game, but he played more forward.
Yeah.
North happened again. He wasn't the number one guy, which is great. He doesn't have to be the number one guy every week, but he could be that guy. But yeah, I think George Hewitt's form has just been too good. And I think he can kind of outshine some of those other Geelong midfielders and be a bit more brutal of the contest compared to a Holmes and a Smith. So that's my best on point of difference. He's coming into the side. He hasn't played a full game since round one. This man. He's the point of difference. Harry Mackay is
Love it.
the point of difference. I don't know. They might have to go to Koning to him, I think, just height wise. I don't know if anyone else can go. Like Stewart's a talent, but I don't think he can go with him size wise. And Harry in the ruck is going to be a big one too, because I think he's got the running capacity to go with a Blix Arves and I think he can go at it. Reece Stanley, let's be real. Reece Stanley is a good ruckman, but oh, big H up forward. I think he's going to kick 4 goals this week. I think he's going to kick four plus against the mighty Cats. But this is the moment of truth, Patto. Tough game. We've said it all game. I'm not saying we get a win this game, definitely. But I think last week, not because it's disregard the opposition. Do not care about last week's opposition at all. Do not care. The way I saw how we played on the weekend, it was brutal for 4 quarters. The start of the game to the finish, and particularly the finish, Patto. That was not a Carlton game we usually finish off. Well, we're 82 points, for Christ's sake. We blew a team out of the water in a supposed 50-50 game. So, Carlton will win this game. It's going to be a nail biter, Patto. Get the defibrillators ready, Carlton fans. I think we're going to have a ripper. I think it's going to be a rip snorter. They had a close win. They're not going to win 2 in a row close. They could. I could be proven wrong, but I don't think they're going to win 2 in a row close. I think we're going to hold on in a nail biter. I think the Blues are going to win by 3 points at the MCG. It's going to be one of those ones. Jack Silvani takes a clutch mark with 30 seconds to go. Crowd goes off. Siren. And just the MCG, the Blue Bagger Army, we are back. We are back. We put the flag down in the middle of the MCG and go, we are back, Patto. We are back. Like you said, this game is the one. Lose this, then you're still on the back foot still for the next few weeks in some tough interstate games. So Baggers by 3, and I hope it's bigger, but I got a feel of a close game about it.
Yeah. Oh, that was a bit of a voice break. Bloody hell, mate. Fucking hell. Maybe that was me being a little bit nervous coming on into Sunday. I'm already just getting that feling of like...
No.
Well, it's good because we're kind of...
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good game. It's meant to be a good game. We're heading in with a bit of momentum. The Cats are off a great win against the Hawks. We know what we did against the Hawks in round 2, so we obviously had a good match against them. And I think Cats won by 8 points as well. And I know that we lost by 8 points. So it kind of is. I know it could be a really good contest, and I just hope that both teams are kind of playing well. But match predictions, kind of spoiled it with Cripper. Because when you mentioned the other player, I was like, best on ground. I straight away thought of Patrick Cripps. It was the one player that he's been off for the past few weeks, and he probably has been managed against the last 2 teams that we played, because probably is fair enough. We played against North Melbourne and then West Coast, so you probably can manage a guy like him against teams like that. So I think this week he should be back to 100%, and I think he's ready to go to dominate that midfield, because I don't think the midfield is really threatening, and I think it's a game that Patrick Cripps can dominate in on Sunday. And then point of difference, I'm going with Elijah Hollins.
Yeah.
Just give a bit of that CUNT, a bit of that cunt about you, mate. Like, come on. If you can just come out and play the way that he can, and he returns. Was last week his first game? No,
Okay.
I didn't know if he returned against the Eagles or not, but I mean, it's great. It's great to see him back, and hopefully he can have a good game this week and be the point of difference.
Oh,
winner plus margin. I'll just get it. I'll just rip it off like a band-aid. Cats by 3 points.
Oh, okay.
I don't. I'm not. I've always said it. I'm not going to trust them against a good side until they actually do it. So, if we beat the Cats this week, I would definitely be tipping the Blues next week against the Crows. I know the Crows are good, and I know that we're playing them at Adelaide Oval, but it's this week.
Yep.
It's your chance this week to.
This is the chance. Yep.
go out and if you don't get the job done and if you lose by 3 points, as you said, or sorry, if we lose by 3 points as I have in the predictions, then I mean
Yeah,
it's a good game. But if we can
yeah,
go out and win the game and hold the lead and actually get the 4 points
yeah.
against an established side like Geelong, who isn't in a great position, it's not like they're
No, 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 no.
absolutely sailing. So they need to win this game as well.
Yeah,
So that's what I'm worried a little bit about as well. But yeah, I'm very nervous heading into this game. It's probably the most nervous I've been since probably all year because the kind of the
yeah.
whole year has kind of been like fuck this, like blah blah blah. But now we have a bit of momentum heading into this week. I am nervous and I just want to make sure that we're actually
Mm,
a good side because if we
yeah,
can
I
beat the
know.
Cats this week, I think we are back to being, as you said, to put the flag down and actually say, yeah, we're back.
Yep.
So before we wrap up the episode, Dave Boy, is there anything else you would like to touch on?
What I'm most nervous about in for this week is if we lose, it's just like, oh, you're almost back to not back to square one, but um, for me, it's the way we lose. I'm not saying like again, it's not going to be an honourable loss. I'm not accepting anything but a
No.
win. But if we play a great brand of footy and we're beaten by a better side in a cracking game, that's when the rhetoric and story will be different. If we lose by 5, 6 goals and we don't throw a punch like we did in the first 4 weeks, then you're back to square one mentally. So I know it's a long season, but this is the type of game that we need to win for our season, for the rest of the season. When you know, like the rest of the year, you can go, we've beaten Geelong at the G convincingly or whatever in a good way. Then you head into games like Adelaide going, we should probably win it. You know, like you go into games like you go to Sydney and you go, we can win this. So if we lose this week, then you're always going to have that question mark for the next 3, 4 weeks.
Mm. Oh, I'm looking back from last year, and I actually forgot that we played this game against the Cats. But it that exact game, it was from round 7, and it was actually on
Yes.
the 27th of April. So
Yeah.
I think we're playing on the 28th. Actually, I think I said the 27th at the start of the episode, but I think we're actually playing on
Yep.
the 28th of April. But it's the exact game where it's like
Yeah,
you
it's the
can
same thing.
actually it is literally right there by the nuts,
Yeah.
like where the game was like the Cats won by 13 points, but the score was 118 to 105.
Yeah, it was a good
And I
game.
think our defensive structure is better now.
Yeah.
So if we can attack which is what we've
Yeah.
done the past few weeks, and I know that last week against the Kangas, we said that we were kind of pushing up the ground a little bit, and we like that it was easier to get behind us to score,
Yeah.
and North
Yeah.
Melbourne us I think scored like 71 points last week, but that's if we had to lose, that's probably the way I want to lose. I want to be
Yeah.
like a threatening side where like
Yes.
they're worrying about, oh shit, but if they get out, they could score.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited, and that's actually the exact game. Like it was literally the exact same round. It's round 7 this week. I mean, it's a day after. We're
Yeah.
obviously playing on the Sunday, and this it literally was 4:15 yellow
Yeah.
footy at the MCG. So it's
Yeah.
pretty much the exact same type of game, which is quite funny. But yeah, looking back to that and remembering that, like that was the exact same feeling heading into that game of like it's exciting.
Yeah.
But when we
Yeah.
lost that game, you kind of walked out, and I could guarantee in
Yeah.
the review episode we would have been like, yeah, but like that's the type of footy we want to play. Like that's a good side, and as you said, we don't want to accept honourable losses. It's not an
No, no,
honourable
no.
loss, but it is a team where we've been pretty shit to start the year, but it's the way you lose. And Geelong do the exact same thing. If they
Yeah.
lose, they're not going to
Yeah.
be down in the dumps about it. But if they play the complete opposite as to how they do play usually,
Yeah,
then
then
of
you
course they're going to be concerned. But like that's the reason why we've been so like, why are we playing so shit this year?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
it's football that we like haven't seen. It's not our best football, and
No.
we can't understand why what we're watching on a week to week basis in the like weeks round 1 to 4,
Yeah.
why we were losing so frequently and like
Mm.
losing the exact same way.
Yep.
It's just this week is massive. It is
Mhm.
so big. So I'm very, very excited, but also I'm sure you would be the exact same way, very, very nervous. But you're all done for the episode.
Yeah, mate.
Cool. So let's wrap it up then. But to every single blue bagger out there, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on the YouTube channel. Make sure to also check out our socials, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, X. There's a few others there, Daffy Boy, that might not be disclosed.
Oh.
But also make sure to check out our podcast platforms, whether it's
Yep.
Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music as well. Please do if you want to listen to the audio version of the episodes. But to you, Daffy Boy, and to every single blue bagger out there. Oh,
Yeah,
the baggers.